In this video, we're going to be reviewing the Wilson Compat WCP320 grip module for the Sig P320 line of handguns. The Sig P320s come in both full size, carry, compact, etc. In fact, the version I have on here today, the Xfull version, we have a detailed link to and review of in the comments below. But because the 320 is a modular handgun system, meaning everything is built around the trigger control group, which is the only serialized component of the gun, it basically creates a market both within SIG as well as a very strong aftermarket, almost like an open source for guns that can be built around these trigger control units, and I'm going to show you how to switch this out in a moment once we've had a chance to review these. But when you look at the Wilson Compat grip module, this is arguably the best upgrade you can make to a Sig P320. In fact, my opinion is, when I did the initial review of the P320, is this made it a considerably better handgun for me for a number of different reasons, which we're going to go into. So when you buy this, it comes in a kit like this. It costs around $70 currently on the Wilson website, and of course you can buy them through other retailers as well. When you buy the grip module, let's go ahead and take a look at it here. You can take it out and then you can swap it out, but let's take a look at some of the features first off. So the first thing is, and let's compare the two. Now, every gun I have on the table here has been fully safety checked. First thing is the beaver tail. You can see the beaver tail is just a little bit different than the X series. So the X series grips are better than the standard SIG grips, but again, it's still inferior in my opinion to the Wilson grip. But when you look at the grip module in particular, it has fully reversible mag release buttons, so you can quickly change this out. It has integral slots in the back of the internal of the grip so that you can put in tungsten weights if that's what you want to put on your handgun. You're also going to notice it's more of a rounded type grip than a traditional blocky grip that you would see on a striker fired pistol. So when you look at the two comparisons side by side, you're going to notice it's much blockier here and much more rounded and almost somewhat pointed on the back end for Wilson Compat grip. You're also going to notice that the texturing is much more aggressive on the Wilson Compat grip. So it's very aggressive texturing on both the front as well as the back strap, and then it has aggressive texturing on the side as well, using the Wilson Starburst type grip pattern, which also looks really, really nice. You're also going to notice it has a more flared mag well than a traditional SIG grip module. And then when you look at them side by side, you're going to also notice, for example, that the rails are just set back a little bit more and they're more contoured in the front, which I like better. It also has a rounded trigger housing as opposed to a square trigger housing, etc. But a lot of the other features are very similar on that. But again, just the ergonomics alone in this are significantly different when you hold, and more specifically when you fire a P320 in a traditional X series grip as opposed to this grip. You'll notice a difference right away. It's very, very obvious between the two. The main thing is it's just a lot less blocky than the SIG X grips and then the traditional grips. And when you look at them, you can see the difference here. We also talked about the rail mounts better. It's farther back and tapered in front. It looks more stylish with the Starburst. But the main thing is it's slimmered and more contoured in the grips. And when you look at the grips, more specifically, and just give you a couple angles to look at it, you're going to notice that unlike most striker fired pistols, this is rounded back here. It's rounded and almost slightly pointed, very similar, for example, to a 1911. And for me, a 1911 is the most natural grip to fire and to hold. And this the same type of feeling I get from the backstrap of the Wilson Compat grip, because what it does is, when you fire a handgun, and I've talked about this in previous videos, the recoil impulse goes back into the web of your hand. And what we've done with striker fired pistols, now that we've got these big double stack magazines, is they made very blocky, wide grips. And that recoil impulse, instead of going back in more of a pointed fashion, gets distributed out in many cases into the knuckles of the hand, which is why a lot of people feel very uncomfortable when they fire the recoil impulse of these large framed handguns, is because that recoil impulse, instead of going back into the meat of the web of the hand is actually going into the knuckles of the hand as well. And that's one of the things that you can largely eliminate here with the Wilson grip, because that recoil impulse instead is focused more on the web of the hand and less on the knuckles. And that's why it feels so much better in my hand to fire this than it does, for example, the stock grips on both a Glock as well as a Sig. So if you like the feel of a 1911, you're absolutely going to love this grip. It makes a huge difference in firing the gun, the feel of it, and the controllability of it. Now, in order to change these out, it's actually very easy. Now, if you have a relatively new Sig, some of these components might be a little stiff at first, but basically what you want to do is, again, we're all safety checked here. You want to disassemble your Sig, and again, these components can be a little stiff at first if this is the first time you've ever done this with your Sig. But in here, for example, you can see the fire control group and then the takedown pin. And at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to remove the takedown pin. We're going to pull it out. And sometimes it's easier than other times to do that, but in this case, it was relatively easy. And then if you've ever removed this for the first time, what you want to do is you want to take the fire control group and lift it up and then out. And because it's seated and back as well. And in this case, it's a little stiff because it's a newer gun, so I'm going to kind of help the process here. But again, I'm lifting it up, taking the trigger, and then pulling it out. And this is your stock grip module that you are replacing. And of course, this is now the serialized trigger control unit. This is the gun per se that Sig has sold you. Everything else around that is a component that you can buy either from Sig or anybody else, including Wilson Compat. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to reinstall this by starting with the trigger down into the hole far enough forward so that I can get the back in and seat it into the gun. Once you have it seated, you then want to install the pin again. And you're going to notice there's a little indent on the pin there. And what you want to do is work this back into the frame. And ultimately, you want to seat it and check it. Now, when you do this more and more with your Sigs, these tend to loosen up a little bit. It's a little tight when you first do this on your handgun, but then once it's there, you can then install your slide, move your takedown pin there, and check it, and now you're fully installed. So it took me less than 2 minutes to swap out the stock grip module for the Wilson Compat module. And again, once you put this in your hand and start firing it and holding it, you will notice a huge difference in the ergonomics of the 320. So much so that this has literally become my go-to tactical pistol and has replaced my Glock 17, as I talk about in my review below of the Sig P320 Xfull. So again, very texturing, excellent hand support. It looks very nice. You can get these in both tan and black. The other cool thing is, you know what, maybe one day down the road, if you say, hey, I'd rather have a black Wilson Compat than the tan, order the black. What's to say you can't have two? And then you can easily swap them out within a minute or two. Very easy to do. This is literally the greatest improvement you can make to your P320. In fact, one of the things that I've done in my previous videos, if you watch my videos on my P365, is you'll notice that on my reviews of the Wilson grip module there as well, I have that on some of my 365s, but not all of them. Some of my 365s, I actually keep the stock Sig grip module as well because I like both of them. But in the case with the P320, there's absolutely no question. I will not be going back. I will not be switching back to the stock grip module. This is the whole reason why, to me, the P320 becomes such a great pistol, is because of this improvement alone. And you can buy these today. I've got a link below on Wilson Combat's website. One of the suggestions I make, however, is you'll notice, for example, this is a Sig Xfull model. When you go onto the Wilson website, you're going to see the various names for them, including, for example, full size, carry, and compact. If you want a grip module that looks like this on your full, in other words, it doesn't extend all the way but is recessed back similar to 17 models, make sure when you order these, you order the carry size option, not the full size option. So even though you would have a full size pistol, order the carry size option so that you can get a configuration like this. However, if you do want the rail to go all the way out, get the full size option. And of course, if you have a carrying compact model, they also have grip modules for those two as well. So that's a review of the Wilson Compat WCP320 grip module, which to me is one of the greatest improvements you can possibly do to your P320, and highly recommended. If you like this video or like our channel, please subscribe on YouTube, and thanks for watching.